are the change makers, okay? We are the change makers.
What are you going to do when you go home that's different?
Young people around the world gathered in their thousands to tell old people that it is time for change. Young people have an extraordinary amount of power, and I look forward to seeing you use your power to build a resilient Africa.
As Africans, our togetherness is our strength, so how can we use that and create more impactful, innovative solutions?
This conference is specifically aimed at building a new network of young leaders for Africa, with strong ties to young leaders in the UK.
The terrible suffering, the impact of fear, you have to use crises to make change. We should start also just thinking with compassion for those who've been affected by the cyclone Idai in Mozambique and also in Zimbabwe and Malawi, and think of our countrymates, people who've lost lives, who've lost family members, who've lost everything.
Climate change is probably the biggest threat to humanity that we have faced ever.
African voices are the most important when it comes to climate change right now, because Africa, we are the least responsible for the impacts of climate change, and we're experiencing them the most.
This has got to be the place where younger generations lead a global conversation about what has to happen next and what leadership looks like for a world that's radically changing.
Campaigners must have a strong story that talks to the heart of the people.
Young people have got the power, young people have got the voice, young people have that impact that would possibly change the mindset and the perceptions of the people.
If they are not part of the conversation today, what kind of future are they going to inherit?
I feel that the UN Climate Summit should focus on aggressive and action-driven interventions to bet a planet our next generation will be proud to call their own.
Our circumstances, as well as the conditions that we live in, are very different, and it's about high time that those are considered in many of the decision-making processes.
Being resilient to environmental shocks, while also being able to support communities through the radical but also positive changes that they will have to go through, is going to be a key task that sits on the shoulders of younger generations. So by focusing on resilience, the UN Summit can ensure that it's putting young people, the leaders of the future, at the very top of their considerations.
Resilience is a product of climate change adaptation. And adaptation requires that we change our systems, we change our governance systems, we change the way we grow our food, the way we manage our water, the way we manage our resources.
We need resilience to get beyond just bouncing back from the impacts of climate change.
This is the end goal and the end core of our struggle. If each and every community can be made or can reach the state of resiliency, then therefore we can talk about achieving the objective of combating the effects and the impacts of climate change across the board.
So Africa needs to be at the forefront in finding solutions that are going to be able to be implemented in Africa. And that's why the voice of young African men and women who are future leaders should be heard at every other platform globally.
Leave out terms like empower Africans. Like, we should be brought to the table as equals, and everyone should know that we have an equal say.
What are you going to do when you go home that's different?